Now, had Ravi Varma been alive when the medium of cinema made its appearance, he would definitely have experimented with that as well. There's no two ways about it. Ravi Varma was not the clash, but the assimilation of past and present. He emerged from a very traditional culture and integrated into the first wave of information technology. He was not only an artist, but a person obsessed with discovery and adventure. At the investiture of Sayaji III, there were actually experiments made by the Indian Electric Light Company with lights. They offered globes and bulbs for electric lights, and which were going to be lit by the energy of a steam engine. That was how electricity was happening at that time. These were early days. But a few years later, the Dussehra celebrations in Mysore, the Dussehra celebrations in Mysore are very important. The Darbar Hall was lit up by electric lights, which the Maharaja of Mysore, he was one of the first to work on electricity in the country. So this was lit up. We would never get a chance to see the Darbar Hall in the Mysore Palace looking like this if it was not for Ravi Varma's painting. Of course, now it just looks ordinary, but this is a fabulous painting showing the way it did. Something else was happening, and that was the German kerosene lamp that arrived, first of all, in Bombay. Kerosene oil was imported from America and Russia and arrived by sea to the busy harbor at Bombay, from where it was distributed for domestic use where needed. Such a development certainly did not escape Ravi Varma's eye. Of course, it was used by him at home and was depicted in his paintings as another wonder of the late 19th century. There's the kerosene lamp, and there's a drawing he made before that. This is a very interesting painting, but of course, as I said, most people will pass it by because it's dull, it's got two men, there are none of those beautiful women there, and no jewelry. I mean, the way we really look at Ravi Varma's paintings with all the glamour, it's not mythology. But here is a man reading a newspaper, which is, first of all, a new thing. And the detail that you see, this lamp that is behind the fan, this is called a pankha lamp. If you look above the line, that's the pankha that was manually stirred in earlier times. The lamp is under that. And to see that the glow of the light doesn't get extinguished, this little top was put on top of the lamp, and it had holes in it to let out the light, so that there was light emanating from there, but the glow was not going because of the protection provided. So this was the pankha lamp of that time. Now, the man is reading a newspaper. In fact, one person got a newspaper and then it passed on until that newspaper was tatters, and it took many days for it to be read wherever it was. But of course, Ravi Varma got his daily newspaper. He was able to afford that with his morning cup of coffee. And coffee was a rare thing in those days too, but he got his morning cup of coffee. In 1906, Ravi Varma's obituary would be flashed across the Hindu and the Times of India newspapers. Such was the degree of progress made by newspapers that time. And even more, interesting. In 1937 was flashed by the Hindu photographs of the entire royal family of Travancore. So there were photographs now coming in. I like you to see the top right is the junior Rani. The lower left is the senior Rani. Now, it's a very complicated thing, but these two, the junior and the senior Rani, were Ravi Varma's granddaughters, and they were adopted into the royal family. And they became the junior and senior Rani. Now the junior Rani had her children. So the king on the left, this is gone blank. He became the king, Sri Chitra, her son, and that is her daughter and the younger son. So she became the actual regent because her son became the king. So that's the king and her daughter and the third son, who died just a few years ago. So photography had come into newspapers at that time as well, naturally, because photography was an integral part of print media, and it appeared because of the newspapers. It is a different thing what great use Raja Deen Dayal, who was also a friend of Ravi Varma, what great use Raja Deen Dayal made of photographs. That is another thing altogether, his photography. Now, Ravi Varma required the aid of photographs for his work in order to help finish a painting. Now, he couldn't ask a sitter to keep on, especially if it was a Maharaja or someone. They couldn't sit all the time while he was painting. So it was very important. Photograph became very important. He would perhaps take a preliminary sitting with the Maharaja or the Maharani or some other important person, and then finish the painting with a photograph. Now, look at this example. This is an extraordinary example. It's a very sad one, actually. This is the Raja and Rani of... When the Raja of Kurupam asked Ravi Varma to make this painting, he questioned him. The Rani had already died, and he was a very grief-stricken young man. What he gave to Ravi Varma were her photographs and showed him her clothes and jewelry. And it is with the help of the photographs that Ravi Varma was able to integrate the Rani into this painting. Now, who would think of it that this was possible? Now, this is Krishna Raja Vadya of Mysore. He couldn't possibly ask Krishna Raja Vadya, this is an example, to endlessly come and sit for his portrait. So he had to make do with, of course, a photograph of Krishna Raja Vadya to finish the painting. But while he was in Mysore making all these paintings, he did take advantage. He did some begging, and he asked the secretary of the Maharaja whether he could possibly have a ride in the newly imported motor car that had just arrived in Mysore in honor of the visit of the Prince of Wales. Well, he managed to get that ride. He must have been absolutely thrilled about that. And he's made this painting of the motor car, and it shows the two kings, the Prince of Wales and the Maharaja of Mysore, sitting in it while going. It's an incomplete painting. Ravi Varma never had the time to actually finish this painting because he thought he would go back and complete it, but he went back to Kerala and he died there 2-3 months later. So this is an incomplete painting, and it shows the two. They are off to hunt. So this was the Kheda camp, and so the two kings went there in this car. Now the railways naturally took Ravi Varma to Bombay, a city he loved to be in, with its liberal attitude and with people who had a modern outlook on life. Here he chanced upon cheap German prints of semi-nude women, which did not take his fancy, but the medium of chromolithography that produced them fascinated him. He wanted to get his paintings reproduced in a similar manner, and he wanted the best quality. Now he sends an agent all the way to Germany to look for a trained chromolithographer. Chromolithography is also used for oleographs. So you can, chromo is suggesting many colors, and the oleograph is that. So his agent found a trained chromolithographer, Fritz Schleicher, who arrived in India. Schleicher stayed on in India, got married to a local woman, and passed on his cottage and the printing press that he finally bought from Ravi Varma. He passed that on to his children. Of course, now nothing survives, and the entire area where the printing press was has passed on to private hands. So there's nothing more of the printing press. But anyway, Schleicher was very efficient, and they went into this great business of making oleographs. Later on, the superior quality of the oleographs went progressively less and less as Schleicher stopped paying attention and it passed on to other people. But here was Ravi Varma, who was able to start his oleographs. So these are two other oleographs. The kind of oleographs that Ravi Varma made were the ones on the right, without any razzle-dazzle, plain. The razzle-dazzle that you see on the left was done later by many people at an attempt to make the oleographs look like the actual paintings or make them even more glamorous. So wherever you see the bits of silver and sequins, these were not done by Varma. What Ravi Varma did were the plain ones. That's where he left it. That was done later. So these are two of the singing girls of Bombay who are dressed like this. And they always wore these big ornis. They played with them while they sang. This is Annapurna. Now, the painting is on the left and the oleograph is on the right. The oleograph has yellowed a little bit because varnish was used on it, and it's not looking as bright as it did when you see the color of the paint. Now, what is interesting in the painting, which is on the left, it has been cleaned. The varnish has been removed. Otherwise, it would have looked like the painting, like the oleograph on the right. When the varnish was removed, I wonder whether you can see the two feathered thing that go on both sides of a goddess or a god. If you can look right on both sides of the face, there is a faint, hazy, circular things on both sides of Annapurna's face. He changed his mind. He painted over it. But after 100 years, when the paint dries, what is underneath comes out slightly. So we can see them. We know he painted them and that he changed his mind. So they are there. But when the oleograph was made, it was still fresh. Can you see these two fans on both sides of Annapurna? Now they were painted, he changed his mind and he painted over it. So it was when the painting is still fresh, it was made into an oleograph. So it's not in the oleograph. But over 100 years, this has emerged, come out slightly because the paint is dry and the paint is thin. So it shows through. So we know it was there. But the oleograph naturally, which was made when this painting was fresh, does not show it. Now here is Yashoda, Krishna and the cow. This is the painting on the left. It's a lovely painting. And on the right is the oleograph, where naturally this glitter has been put by someone later on. What you see here on the left is the influence that Ravi Varma had on Tanjore glass paintings. So the same Yashoda, Krishna and the cow appears in a different kind of way in this Tanjore glass painting. Now, about the image on the right, let me say something. Now, had Ravi Varma been alive when the medium of cinema made its appearance, he would definitely have experimented with that as well. There's no two ways about it. but he died in 1906 and cinema came a little after that. His previous apprentice at the printing press, Dada Sahab Palke, who later on, as we know, became a renowned filmmaker, he used Ravi Varma's images for his films. Now, this is the same Yashoda Krishna theme that he used in the film that he made in 1918, Shri Krishna Janam. So he's used the same, so you can see the way this particular image has moved from various things to where it went even further. It was made into a tile, it was made into a stamp, so it went on and on and on. In Ravi Varma was not the clash, but the assimilation of past and present. He emerged from a very traditional culture and integrated into the first wave of information technology. He was not only an artist, but a person obsessed with discovery and adventure. Thank you.